I'd looked after 2 people with dementia, so I knew that something was wrong with me, perhaps a long time before most people do. For most of my life we lived in the same house, and then I was diagnosed, and it seemed to make sense to go somewhere where there would be care. Even though I didn't need it at the moment, there would be care in the future. And I think this is a good place for people with dementia, particularly for couples where one's well and one isn't. I don't think you could get a better setup, really. There's support for the carer, and also a whole community that they can be involved in.
It's extremely wearing on carers. So if you move a couple where one person's got dementia and the other one's caring into extra care early enough, then the carer gets supported too, which means you don't need to provide as much actual care because the carer's still doing a lot, but you're supporting them and keeping them going and they're staying together.
I have to do everything now, cleaning, cooking, which I never did before. It's my job now to look after her. Frustrating at times, hard work at times. But I'm pretty lucky here because we go down to the lounge every afternoon and there's a lot of people who get in there and we sit and talk. And I'm talking to people who haven't got, I'll say, you know, well, we do that every afternoon, so, oh, it's helped me a lot being in here.
Socialising can slow down dementia. So the fact that they're engaging with somebody else, talking, having conversations, doing little quizzes at the Age UK, that will actually prevent the dementia developing as fast. Whereas just having medical treatment or seeing a GP once a month won't do that. It can really help keep their conditions at bay, can really help prevent them from really taking over.
I've never had any regrets about being here. A lot of people with dementia can be very lonely, and you don't have to be lonely here. And for me, that's perhaps the thing that matters to me most, that I have a big circle of people who have dementia, and I probably share more with them than even my family, although my family are very close, because we're all in the same position. Being able to be with people, other people with dementia, is an enormous, enormous plus.
There's more than 100 types of dementia, and the symptoms vary for each individual. So it really is a different experience for everyone who has dementia. So the key is that staff are trained and supported to fully understand the needs and preferences of someone with dementia within an extra care housing setting. And that takes time. We have seen a lack of awareness among residents who don't have dementia about what the needs and abilities of residents with dementia are.
A lot of the residents and service users don't understand it, so to try and get them to understand it a little bit better, we hold our own dementia champion courses here, which we can invite families and friends, residents, just to make them all a bit more aware of dementia. It makes a lot of difference, yeah.
The stigma's there, the fear's there, and you see the fear here. You know, they look at what they least want for themselves, and they react angrily. I guess that comes from fear.
Some of them say, oh, she's sharpy, she shouts, you know, but I think, oh, I say, well, it's not because she's being nasty, sometimes it's just that illness, you know, so I think eventually it's getting through to a lot of them. But most of the time, they will work together and look after each other.
I think one of the solutions to that is to make sure that we offer people with dementia the opportunity to move in as early as possible, so that they can familiarise themselves with a scheme and the people who live there, and equally other residents get to know the person and they don't really see them as someone with dementia, they just see them as a friend whose situation is changing.
Well, the reality is that there are 850,000 people in the country at the moment who have dementia. Most of these people live in their own homes in the wider community. I would be the last person to say to people, you have to move early, but they may be faced with the choice of moving early into an extra care scheme or delaying a move and then having to move straight into a residential home or nursing home because they've passed the point where they could settle into an extra care scheme.
You have to build memories. If we really, really meant what we said about prevention, we would fund people to go into extra care when their needs were lower. Not low, but lower. If at that stage we considered extra care for people, that's preventative.
I believe that the earlier the diagnosis, the better. You can make all the plans you need to make, the sort of practical things like moving here, like making advance directives, like sorting out things, finances, all that can be done and then forgotten about. I remember when I did it all with my solicitor, he said, forget about it now, it's all done. And that's really good. And you can get on with living.
I think there's a misconception that when people have dementia, they're no longer capable of contributing or doing anything, and that is a real myth. There are plenty of things that somebody with dementia can do. Somebody who's had a garden can continue to do the gardening. Everybody is different, and you need to find the best way of involving this individual.
You can do things, that you have to make things available to people. That's sort of based on choice. Our illness doesn't identify us, and we should have the right to even take risks. It's important that, if I want to go out for a walk on my own, even when I'm, worse than I am now, I should be allowed to do that.
It's not just about designing a building, it is about making sure that the environment both within and around that building are dementia friendly, and incorporating that into all designs so that what's dementia friendly will be friendly for everybody.
When we came here, we felt the difference in the way it was set out, the way the flats were and everything. And it's a lot easier for me to look after him here, and I can do things that couldn't be bothered doing before when we were in other places.
Looking at adaptability of the apartment itself, is there sufficient daylight in there? Having this acoustic design is very important. It's the purposeful activity. So actually having raised planters so people can potter about planting there, having a greenhouse, outdoor activities, so that external space has a purpose and it is used. It's not just something nice to look at, it needs more than that.
Dementia has a beginning, a middle and an end, and there are different responses at different times, but they're all about recognising the individuality of the person. I think that is the key thing. This isn't this isn't an illness that you look at. It's a person who's still, very much the same person. I've not my diagnosis.
It comes back to having a proper understanding of the condition, but also a really good knowledge of that individual. And it's down to individual choice at the end of the day.
Really supporting that person rather than leading them down one decision or another, but helping them to make their own decision and be comfortable with that will absolutely help them to feel that this is a positive move rather than something that they're doing because they have no other alternative.
If you thought about it, most people do want to keep their voice and not to be shrouded in cotton wool and almost treated as a non-person. And I think you can do two things with dementia. You can sort of turn your face to the wall, or you can use your voice, and that's what I do, loudly.